Yeah. So Norm, I'm so glad to have you with me here on this video. I'd like to introduce Norm Jolin to you. He is the owner and creative director of End Design, a graphic design studio from the Durham region. And Norm has been working in graphic design and marketing for over 20 years, I believe. They specialize in strategy and development of company branding and marketing. End Design is a graphic design company with brand specialists, and they have specific programs that they have designed for businesses to properly brand and market themselves, right from print, web, social media to environmental and mobile platforms. So we will talk to Norm in a little bit more detail about this, but just to give you a little idea of his specialties, definitely corporate design, branding and identity, advertising and promotional assets, web design, multimedia catalogs and newsletters, vehicle design. So there's a whole gamut of services that they deliver. So you can read a little bit more about Norm if you go to his website as well. And then we also have a profile of Norm on our website. Norm is an expert on our network, so he helps companies with these kinds of specialties. As many of you may know, BACD strives to be the go-to business resource for businesses here in the Durham region. And having experts like this is one way for us to be able to help our clients and help them be successful. Our mission is that entrepreneurs we serve achieve business success. So Norm, tell me a little bit about you. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask some questions so people can get to know you. And then we're going to also just loop back to a session that we're going to be having with you. But I'd love to hear your story and what inspired you to actually start your own business.
Yeah, well, it's funny, you know, I wouldn't say I was inspired to start my business. I was kind of, I don't want to say strong arm, but I used to work for different agencies, and I would go from one agency to another. I didn't bounce around a lot, but I did work at several different marketing and design agencies over the years. And when I would go from one company to another, I would have clients follow me from one place to the next. And then I had a couple of my bigger accounts, my key accounts. They would complain to me like, why do we have to pay this company to have you? We want you, not them. And eventually they said, they convinced me, they coerced me to go out on my own. That was about 11 years ago now.
Okay.
And yeah, so I've been doing it on my own ever since. I mean, I've never looked back. I'm glad that I did it. It was something that I didn't know what I was getting myself into initially.
Right.
But I'm glad that I had already had 15 years of experience under my belt working for other companies and learning from them. So I, and then I have my colleagues that I could call on and lean on with questions, as things came up as a new business owner. So yeah, it wasn't something that I was planning. I wasn't thinking to myself when I got into this, I want to be an entrepreneur. But, as it kind of came forth and put onto me, I embraced it, and yeah, I did.
Tell me a little bit, like how did you deal with the challenges that came up for you? Like you said, you didn't think you were going to go into this. You didn't really know what you were getting into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was all new. Now, when I first started out, I started out working out of my home. Yeah. So I didn't have a whole lot of overhead. And I had clients that were guaranteed, right? They were retainer accounts. I didn't have to worry about bringing in new work. So there wasn't a whole lot of, it was very stressful, like anything, when you make a big change like that.
Yes.
And you leave the security net or the safety net of a business that you work for. And then you add all these extra stresses in, like where is the next job coming from? And, am I going to be able to make enough money next week to pay the bills? That kind of stuff. So initially it wasn't so much that, because these retainer accounts were guaranteed. I knew this work was coming in. So anything beyond that was just kind of bonus. Where the learning curves were how to schedule myself properly and how to stay focused, right? Especially working from home, right? I don't work from home anymore, but when I was working from home, it's easy to think, oh, I got a load of laundry in the in the wash. Right. It's that you get distracted, right? So that was a bit of a
point. Was there any tips on that? Because I will say to you that I think this is a common thing that a lot of my clients suffer from, is that they're working from home and they're like, they don't actually know how to structure their day and how to structure themselves so that they can And I normally say to them, treat it just like you're at a job, at a business.
You do. And it's even worse when you've got kids, especially in the summer when the kids are home, right?
Right.
Now, like for me, one of the things that I did was I didn't take any time off, but there was a couple of years where I put my business on. I was still running my business, but what I was doing was I was giving my wife an opportunity to build her practice. And so I would stay home with the kids through the day. She would build her practice. And then when she came home, I would go to my office and start working. So I would work kind of through the night, because a lot of my clients, they don't care when I'm working on their stuff as long as the deadlines are being met. But back to your question, the best way I found to do it was what I did was I separated some space in my house, and that was my office. And it was what I did was I did it in the basement. So I created a little office for myself in the basement. It was actually a nice office in the basement. And I would shut the door. I'd go down into the basement. I'd go down into my office, shut my office door, and I'm at work. And I'm at work for, whatever. I'll take a break. Sometimes I wouldn't even take a break for lunch, because I, go upstairs and have something to eat for lunch and then get now distracted again, right? So I use that barrier. I shut the door and I'm at work.
Right. That's a really good point, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Another question I have for you, because I know you said that you really started with a roster of clients.
Mm-hmm.
Have you managed to keep them all this time? And, what are you doing to market your business? Because I'm sure things change.
Yeah. The original clients that I had when I first started on my own, I no longer have those accounts. Yeah. I mean, typically in my industry, accounts, if you can hold an account for 5 to 7 years, that's a good term for an account. They usually turn over, right?
Yeah.
They want some new fresh blood. They want to get some new ideas and some new thinking, and they feel that they need to move on to another agency to get that, right? It's very common. Now, with that said, I've got some accounts that I've been working with for 20 years, more than 20 years, and they're very happy working with me, and they stick with me, right? But the couple of big accounts one of the big accounts, they ultimately, in the end, they hired in-house. They kept all on in-house. But then I had another client that I used to work with at an agency, and they found me, and I started working with them. So that kind of that. A lot of my work comes in through word of mouth, my reputation. I've been, like you said, I've actually been doing this for over 25 years now. Right. And so, yeah, a lot of it is word of mouth. Now, I can't rely on that. I gotta, especially because a lot of my clients were in Toronto. Right. And my business is in Durham. I want to support Durham. I want to work here. I work here. I want to work with the businesses here. Right. So over the last, 8 or 9 years of my 11 years in business, I've been focusing on that, trying to focus more on businesses here. Now, it's a very different demographic, very different business world here than it is in Toronto.
Very much so.
And very different budgets. So it has been a bit more difficult. So yeah, I have to market myself. And so I've been using things like, I've been using social media over the last year and a half or so, and it has been doing reasonably well. Social media is one of these things that it's a slow curve. It's not something that happens quickly. It doesn't, just start putting stuff out on social media and next thing you know, you're getting work for most people.
Good point.
It takes a little while. Social media is a patience game. You got to be patient. You got to just build your brand and get people to know that you're there, and just continuously put things out, letting people know that you're there. And eventually you start to see things coming back on the other side, returning, right?
Right.
I don't do a whole lot of advertising. Tried it. Like I've tried, Yellow Pages. I've tried putting ads in some things. I'll put ads in publications, and I'll put ads in some different things to support. Like I support the Oshawa Generals, and so I've done advertising there. I'm a member of the Whitby Chamber, so I've done ads there. But this is more just to support the community.
Right. That does help,
really,
right?
Yeah, but I don't see a whole lot of return from that. I don't get a lot of business from it, and I don't expect it. Right. It's just more brand exposure, really. I'm a big believer in brand exposure. The more you can have your brand out there, the more people see it, the more familiar it becomes to them, the more comfortable they become with using it.
Good point. So, good point. Another question I have from you, just to follow on from that, like, have you seen any significant changes in your profession over the years? Like that, how's that impacted your business?
Huge. Computers for one. Like I said, you go back 25 years, right? When I first started working in the industry, there was computers were in its infancy.
Right.
So they were just coming in. We were like, my graduating class was one of the first classes to graduate with 3 full years of computer experience under our belt. So a lot of us were getting jobs just because we knew how to use computers. And a lot of the design studios, they're bringing in computers, but they don't know how to use them. So it was a real benefit for us, but it really changed the industry. I mean, it replaced a lot of industry specialists. Like it forced designers to become specialists in these areas that didn't exist for designers before. Things like typesetting, color correction, photo retouching, photo manipulation. None of that stuff happened with designers 25 years ago. Right?
Because it was all handmade, right?
All done by hand. You had typesetters, you had film strippers, you had stat guys that run, you know what I mean? Everything was done by other people. You're just creating the concept, creating the design and the concept, and then everybody else is doing all the production work to make it real. Nowadays, you got to do all of that. And a lot of people, to be honest with you, there's a lot of designers out there that don't know. They don't understand typesetting, and they don't understand the fundamentals of these things because it doesn't exist nowadays. Computers really take over a lot of it, right?
Yeah. So in some ways it's made it easier for you because like 25 years ago would have been probably hard for you to start your own business because you would have needed all these people to help this work. And today you can do it by yourself on a computer.
Yes. Yep. As long as you want, like the one thing that I've always been a firm believer is you need to know where you come from to be successful with where you're going. And that's kind of been lost a little bit because, typesetting and film stripping and all that stuff is so far in the past that you don't, people just rely on computers to do it all for you, right?
Yeah.
So when you get into things like, making sure that your images are tracked properly so that way they separate properly on press, a lot of people don't even know what I'm talking about. And I'm talking designers. No clue what I'm talking about, right? Setting type properly so that it looks right, people think, oh, I can just let the computer do it for me, but you got to use your eyes and you got to make sure it's right. So that's one of the things that I really like to focus on, that kind of stuff, the little things. And, you can tell the difference between somebody that actually knows what they're doing and they know how to do it properly and those that don't. And there's a lot that don't, but I can see the differences, right? I'll look at a piece and I can look at these different pieces and I can see who's doing it well and who isn't, right? We're just having the computer do it for them, right?
So I have a question for you. Can you take me just through the steps of what a new client would go through with you and the kinds of services that you would provide for them? And like taking into consideration that I work with a lot of new and existing businesses. So I normally tell my existing businesses, I would say 3 to 5 years, you're looking at a rebrand, a refresh. But what about brand new businesses? What should they be looking at? What should they consider? That kind of thing.
Well, every business, I always tell people when you're starting a business, you're going to spend money on marketing.
Yes.
Whether you want to or not, you're going to. And the question is, are you spending this money with a plan or are you just spending this money off the cuff, right? And what I mean by off the cuff is, you'll be driving down the street somewhere and you see a lawn sign somewhere, oh, we need to do that, right? And you call a lawn sign company and get a lawn sign made. And then you see a car go by with graphics on it. It's like, oh, we need to do that, And so you just kind of see things and it's off the cuff, right? You just buy these things off the cuff. And there's no strategic plan. There's no brand plan in place, right? You're just doing this stuff. And so then you get all these pieces out there and you look at them all together as a collective whole. None of them make sense with one another because it's all these different people doing things. Nothing wrong with the print guy that did your signs for you. There's nothing wrong with the guy that did the vehicle graphics for you, but they're not talking to each other and they don't want to. They don't care. You need to have somebody that's going to look at the entire picture for you, put together a strategy and a plan. So that way, when you're spending your money on your marketing, it's being spent wisely and effectively, right? Rather than money just getting thrown out the window on something that you think might work, and then it doesn't work, and you think, oh, lawn signs don't work for me. Well, maybe they do. You just didn't figure out how to do it properly and make sure that it's targeting the right demographic.
So a lot of this comes back down to the messaging, the vision, the mission, your values, right? And those are probably assets that you need before you engage somebody, so that because it's not really your role to be showing, like writing copy and coming up with that kind of content, correct?
That's correct. Now I do that with clients,
Okay.
especially startups, right? I mean, I'm not a marketing manager, but I've worked with many marketing managers over the years, and I've learned a lot. And so people that are smaller businesses that need that level of help, I can help with them.
Right.
I can help them with that type of thing on that level. Like I did a wordsmithing session with a client last week, and we're meeting again this afternoon to go through the final stages of that wordsmithing session. So that way she can start putting her vision and her values together. She doesn't even have a name for her company yet. So this is all part of all of that, where I'm helping her name the business. I've got another client that she's looking for help with their mission and her vision and how she wants to brand her programs. And so I won't do all the writing for them by any means, but we will sit down and we will start putting together the pieces that they need so we can structure these statements properly for them, right?
Because you probably understand the whole calls to action and the hierarchy of messaging and all this sort of stuff, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So I noticed as well that one of your strategy or one of your specialties is branding and identity, and that's really what you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
When you consider creating someone's brand, like what do you need from people? What's the process? I'd love to know about what that process is.
Well, one of the first things I do is I have a needs discovery questionnaire that I sit down with them. I feel at the beginning, especially a new business, there's a lot of education involved. There's a little bit of hand holding, and there's a lot of face-to-face time. You got to meet with them, sit down and talk with them about what they're looking to do. What is their business? What are they looking to do? Who's their target audience, right? A lot of times they don't even know what that is, right? Do you have a marketing budget? If not, that has to happen. You need to put together something that, so that way, it's all about strategic planning, right? Once you have all of these elements in place, then you can start putting together what's your vision, what are your values, what's your mission. These are key important pieces to your branding. A lot of people think branding is a logo, right? And there's so much more to a brand than a logo. These pieces are key because if you put your values out there, people want to work, or people gravitate to other people whose values are in line with their own. Right. How do people know what your values are if you don't put them out there? And you put those out there strategically throughout all your branding and marketing materials. And so if you do it right, you're going to attract the type of demographic and audience that you're looking to attract for your business.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's about making your business successful, right? You want people to buy from you. You want people to like you and build trust with you. And to do that, you need to have some assets that say what it is you do and for who.
Yes.
Good point. So that's a great exercise. And I think sometimes, it's a place where our businesses struggle the most. So I have another question just to follow on. To what do you attribute your success in business?
My creative drive. Okay. I was, I can't remember how old I was when I discovered my creativity. And so I can't remember, I was a kid and I always knew I'd be in some sort of creative industry. It was a given for me. I had to be, right? And that drive, like some days I can't sleep at night because I've got so many things going through my head and my head is spinning and I got to get up and I got to write, or I got to paint, or I'm constantly doing something creatively. I have to have that outlet. And sometimes the business isn't always a creative outlet.
That's right. It's the doing, right?
Yeah. Sometimes when you're doing all the executing of all the components and everything, that the creativity portion of it is done. And so if I'm not feeling creatively challenged, then I lose sleep. I'm looking to other outlets to get that creativity out.
Right.
So that's the reason for my success. I mean, that's what I think anyway. I mean, obviously anybody that's successful has to be good at what they do. So, having that, you have to be good at what you do. You have to be confident. But I think for me, the biggest thing is my creative drive. Creative
drive is important. What would you say the top 3 skills are that are needed for entrepreneurs to be successful today?
Top 3 skills. I think you have to believe in what you're doing. That's not a skill. That's not a skill necessarily, but you have to really believe in who you are and what you're doing. You have to be confident. You have to have a vision, right? It has to be a clear vision of
But
what
you're not
you're
just going
trying.
to quit on next week, right? The vision has to be like something that you can stick to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. The dedication to, like, once you know what your vision is, then you gotta have that dedication to stick to it, and you gotta be creative. I don't know any entrepreneur that's not creative in some form or another. You gotta have some sort of creative thought process to build this business, right? You gotta differentiate. You gotta have some sort of differentiator between you and all your competitors. So you gotta have something. You gotta have that mindset that, you know, if I'm an electrician, what makes me different than the other 15 electricians that are all competing for the same job, and we're all quoting the same thing, right? You know.
So true. I loved what you said there about the belief. You have to believe in yourself. It is so true. The people that fail are the ones who stop believing in themselves. I think that's when the mindset changes to that place where, like, I can't do this, or I'm not good at this. That's when it starts to break down. So, you know, to me, I think that's such a great aha moment, is that you can just continue to believe in what you do, that the world has a need for it, or the place where you're doing business has a need for it, and that you believe in your skill set of what you can offer to people, right?
Yeah, yeah. You gotta have that, and you gotta have that fortitude, right? You'll never get anywhere if you don't have that. Right? You got to be confident in yourself, because there's going to be people out there that will say you're no good.
That's very true.
Or they're going to say they're better than you, or they're going to say what we're offering is better than what they're offering, right? I mean, you're always going to have that, right? So,
yeah, very true. So another question I have for you, just talking about entrepreneurship skills, what key activities do you suggest entrepreneurs actually invest in?
Number one, first and foremost, 100% number one is networking.
Okay.
Gotta network with people. You can't sit in a little vacuum and expect to be successful. It's not one of these scenarios where if you build it, they will come. You got to get out there and meet people. You got to network. You got to show people that you are an expert in your area or your field, and you got to be confident. But networking, absolutely, 100% number one. Social media, I think we're in the world of social media. There's no two ways about it. Whether it's social media, depending on your business, it's either social media marketing through Facebook or LinkedIn, right? If you're a B2B type of business, then maybe Facebook's not the way to go. You're more LinkedIn, or I'm sorry, not LinkedIn. LinkedIn. If you're business to homeowner type of thing, Facebook is a better fit for you. But social media, you can't do it without social media nowadays. Social media is part of our world.
I would agree with you. And even Instagram is really big. And I've noticed people are even businesses are working even on the Snapchat platform.
Yeah, you know, there's always going to be new and fresh things, right? Twitter was a hot spot for a while. It's still around. It's still doing stuff, but it's on the decline. But yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Instagram and Snapchat are two of the newer up and coming. Instagram being part of Facebook, right? But
I was mentioning that to a client this morning, that having a website and a social media presence is like, it's your pay to play. That's the bottom dollar of what you need to do to even get started in business today.
Yeah, opening antes. You need those both.
That's right.
The other thing is continuing education. Yeah. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter how great you are. You need to continuously grow and learn, right? If you think the learning stops today, well, then you're a fool, right? Because the learning never stops. You can always learn something new every day. So continuing education and training, 100%, you should be doing that as regular activities with your business. Yeah. And the last thing I would say is thinking about your community. Charitable events, giving back to your community, those are really important too.
Right. It makes for a well-rounded business and a well-rounded person, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And those, I find that those certainly are the keys to success for myself and for lots of other businesses. Now, one last question I have for you is, what business-related book has inspired you the most?
I'm not a huge book reader. I have a few books that I've been reading. There's one sitting on my nightstand right now, which is the Building a Brand Story.
Okay.
Another one is Financial Prospecting by Jeff Blount. So I started that one, and I got about halfway through it, and it just stalled for me. Right? I find it a little bit of a tough read, but yeah. I mean, I love reading design annuals.
Right.
Awards annuals. I love looking through them. I love looking at people's work. I find that very inspiring to see what people are doing, what the new trends are, you know. So design, they're not books, but like design magazines and award annuals,
Yeah.
type of thing. Those are the ones those are my go-to.
Right.
Yeah.
And you probably look for creativity in all kinds of different places, right?
I'm always looking at that stuff. I look at what people are doing, look at signs, I look at office buildings, I look at retail spaces, I look at how they're doing things and why they're doing things. I look at everything, vehicles, I love design as a whole, right? Industrial design, interior design.
Right. That's awesome. So I just want to finish up with saying that this is Norm Jolin from N Design. You can reach him on his website at www.n-design.ca. Norm is going to present a session here at BACD. It's a free session called Ask the Expert. It's on building your brand for success. It's on September the 11th from 12 to 1, and you can register at our website, bacd.ca/events. Bring your questions and anything that you need Norm to help you with. This is an open session. He's going to walk you through building your brand, what that means, and then also take questions from people. These sessions are normally always sold out, so definitely register early to get into that.